Mist curled through the narrow alleys of Bravos like pale fingers, caressing shuttered doorways and cobblestones slick with moon silver. Beneath the arched bridge of the Black Canal, bells tolled the midnight watch, their iron throats echoing off water that smelled of salt and secrets. In a city founded by fugitives and built on the bones of forgotten gods, silence itself could feel alive, shifting, listening, waiting. Tonight it listened to footsteps far too measured to belong to a drunkard or wanderer. Cloaked in umber wool, a lone figure glided toward the house of black and white, hood drawn, face unseen. Every pace was chosen, every breath metered. The man moved as though the world were a board of painted squares, and he alone knew the rules of the game. The doors to the temple loomed, two halves of the same face, one black, one ivory, each wearing serenity eternal. Candles flickered behind latticed shutters, murmuring of devotion older than the Seven, the Drowned, or any red god aflame across the seas. The visitor paused to feel the gaze of those motionless faces, then pressed a bare palm to the line where black met white. Wood groaned open, revealing a hall rife with incense and still water, pillars painted with the 100 visages of death. A priest waited nearly part of the gloom, his robe a rustling tide of gray. Only his eyes lived, gray-green and fathomless. "What gift?" the priest asked in the soft Bravosi tongue. "Coin and name," the visitor answered, extending a purse the color of dried blood. "Robert Baratheon, king of Westeros." The priest did not lift the purse. He weighed the air, as though payment were more scent than silver. "Names are shadows. Why should the many-faced god desire this shadow to fade? Because kingdoms burn when their king is naught but a drunk in borrowed armor," the visitor breathed. "Because a storm of steel will come to Westeros if he lives, and my master would have the storm break sooner on gentler ground." Wind sighed through high windows. Coins clicked like distant hail as the purse vanished beneath the priest's sleeve. Then the god is paid. Weeks later, when dawn stained the narrow sea rose gold, a slender galley slipped from the ragman's harbor. Her mainsail bore no sigil, her crew offered no names, and among the passengers sat a girl of perhaps 16. Lithe, dark of hair, gray of eye, quiet even for a child of Bravos. She called herself Mara. To the sailors she was mute, but in her mind she recited the litany of no one with each heartbeat. "I see. I do not judge. I serve." She had been cat of the canals, Beth the beggar, blind Lana walking stones without sight or sound. Names were garments, donned and discarded, yet none weighed as lightly as the name she wore now. Her mission was a story whispered only once. The kindly man had spoken as candles wept tallow down their stems. "The Wolf King grows fat on wine and memory. The realms of men will soon bleed for his folly. A gift has been asked, a debt owed. Go, melt into his shadow, and when the hour strikes, deliver the god's mercy." Mara had smiled. Mercy was a blade as thin as a shaving of moonlight. Across the sea, summer-baked kings landing beneath a haze of dust and excrement. Flea bottom stank of stew and sweat, and the red keep's crimson towers shimmered like rubies in a furnace. Yet within Maegor's holdfast the king's halls echoed half-empty, for Robert Baratheon loved few things less than sitting a throne. Hunt, feast, wench, drink, those were his devotions. His crown weighed heavy, but the wine cup never did. He swore he could still feel the stubble growing on Rhaegar Targaryen's corpse beneath the Trident's river silt. Yet 20 years had fattened his jests and dulled the edge of every memory. Cersei's contempt, Jon Arryn's grave, and Eddard Stark's furrow-browed sighs clung to him like fleas to a boarhound. If only all those ghosts would vanish behind a frothing tankard. On the day Mara stepped ashore, Robert was halfway through the third barrel of Autumn Harvest Red. Sweat dampened his beard, rings bit deep into sausage fingers. By sunset he would laugh too loud at a bawdy tale, challenge Ser Boros to an arm wrestle, and forget to sign half the parchments Lord Peter presented with a flourished quill. The small council learned to live with the king's neglect. Misrule, after all, left much room for private enterprise. Yet whispers of a faceless contract would freeze the blood of even cunning Master Baelish or cold Lord Varys, if whispers there were. Thus far, none reached the Red Keep's marble floors. Arya Stark, once Arya, drifted among beggars on the street of silk, eyes lowered beneath a threadbare cloak. She noted the tilt of a gold-cloaked spear, the limp of a sell-sail's hamstring, every creak of shutter above a brothel door. All information fed the map behind her eyes, marking avenues of approach, partitions of shadow, and egresses none would guard. Yet she also watched the king. Each afternoon Robert rode, if that lurch could be called riding, through the mud gate in search of stags to spear in the Kingswood. He would return at twilight reeking of sweat, his cuirass undone to ease his belly's ache. It would be easy later to find the leather's weak stitching. But killing a king was never merely a question of steel. The blow must strike at a single moment, neither early nor late, when the shape of realms aligned to receive it. Mara listened for that moment as a harpist listens for perfect pitch. Autumn's breath crept into the crownlands. Hunts grew longer. Robert pursued white harts no man had seen in a generation, convinced the beast's heart would cure his waistline. Ned Stark, newly made hand, pleaded caution, though words struck Robert like pebbles on a shield. In small council chambers Ned found himself drowning in ledgers, whispers of crown debt, and Lannister gold binding it all like mortar. Varys loosened tidbits of treason with the most delicate fingers, each crumb luring the hand deeper into webs not of his spinning. Littlefinger smiled, offering keys to unseen doors, for a price. All the while Mara watched, unseen herself. She became Myrtle, scullery drudge, whose silence earned her leave to carry cups in royal company. She learned the king rose 3 times every night to piss, grumbling curses at his own bladder. She spied on Cersei's mirror-polished malice, the way her eyes devoured Jaime's every stride. She stole a dagger from a Myrish sellsword so skilled he never felt its absence. And she listened to the ravens, whispers of Targaryen heirs in V's Dothrak, of Lisa Arryn's flight, of wolves howling in the north. One cool evening she carried flagons of spiced wine to the king's solar. Robert bellowed for more honey, and as Myrtle bent to pour, she felt his pulse through the cup's thin pewter, fast, erratic, thrumming against his skin. Too much ale, too much anger. His life was a forge overheated, metal soft and ready to bend or break. Soon, she thought, soon the god will have his due. Yet even a no one can feel the tug of who they were. Ned Stark strode the courtyard that night, pacing like a direwolf in chains. She could smell winter clinging to him, hear the crack of ice in his words, even as he spoke softly to a raven from Winterfell. In another life she might have run to him, burying her face in that cloak of smoked fur. Instead she drifted past like stale smoke, heart quiet. The price of many faces was the surrender of all, and still that price felt steeper than the Titan's foreleg. In the House of Black and White they taught that every life weighed the same. King, beggar, septa, or sellsword. But Arya's ghost whispered that some lives carved deeper furrows through the world. If Robert fell, ripples would crash against Winterfell's halls, perhaps drown her long-suffering sister at court, maybe drag Sansa into Lannister claws. Yet prophecy was a hall of mirrors, and the faceless men did not traffic in what-ifs. They were the hand of inevitability. Thus Mara dulled the whisper. She submitted to the current, letting it bear her toward the appointed hour. The horn sounded at dawn when the king and his retinue rode for the Kingswood again. Ser Barristan in white enamel, Renly grinning beneath emerald stag antlers, and Sandor Clegane scowling at them all. The royal hunters jostled under pennants bright as larkspur, hoofs clattering down Visenya's hill. Loyal servants followed with kegs and roasts enough to feed a siege. Mara watched from a baker's doorway. Her eyes measured girths of saddles, the slant of sunlight along breastplates, even the looseness of a strap binding Robert's vambrace. Infirmities revealed themselves like bruises on fruit if one looked long enough. She turned north, slipping past a cane vendor into the poorer warrens. There, in a tanner's shanty that reeked of urine and rot bark, she traded coin for a half-cask of pale liquid the color of tears. Essence of the strangler, the tanner boasted in a rasp. Silent as dusk, sure as night. She offered no reply, only silver. A single drop on the tongue, sinews lock, lungs forget their craft, heart forgets its drum. But the strangler left marks. Bruised lips, pupils wide as moons. Obvious, crude. This one would not do. She purchased widow's wail instead. A lesser-known sister to the strangler, slower, less dramatic. 2 drops in sweet liquid lulled the blood. 10 turned it thick as curd. No violet stains, no bulging eyes. Just a heart too tired to protest. Perfect for a man whose arteries already labored beneath feasts. She tucked the vial into her bodice, where the chill of glass mirrored the calm in her veins. 3 evenings later, under a swollen orange moon, Robert feasted to celebrate the hunt that never seemed to reach its quarry. Bards sang of stags and maidens. Dancers whirled, coins tinkling on hips. Mara, now given leave to serve as cupbearer, moved among them like a flicker of lamp smoke. She chose the second flagon brought from the cellars, uncorked beside the buttery's hearth. Wine steam rose against her cheek as she stirred in 7 drops. Not more. The liquid disappeared, a secret swallowed by crimson. She bore the flagon past Renly's jesting, past Lancel's eagerness, to the king himself. Robert raised his goblet, gold, inlaid with jade boars, and winked at the tiny serving girl. She smiled meekly, eyes on the rush-strewn floor, and filled. Wine sloshed red as fresh blood. The king downed half the cup in 3 throats. Foam beaded in his beard. Applause rattled the hall. But prophecy is the child of chaos. Before Robert could raise the second cup, a quarrel erupted between 2 Stormlanders over the merits of Dornish women. Tankards flew, men roared. The king bellowed laughter and surged to his feet, eager for sport. His goblet toppled, spilling the widow's wail across the trestle. Tablecloth drank the poison. None reached royal lips again. Fate, it seemed, had twitched aside like a horse shying from a shadow. Mara felt no disappointment. The god chose his hour. She retrieved the flagon, still half full, and waited. Another hunt rode at sunrise. This hunt ended in thunder. Robert's party flushed a boar, monstrous, scarred, tusks like scythes. The king pursued through briar and marsh, heedless of thorns tearing his cloak. His retainers struggled to follow, hampered by bog and bellowing hounds. At last light the beast wheeled on him, slashing. Robert drove his spear but slipped in mud. The boar's tusk plowed groin to rib. When the king's guard found him, dusk bled from the sky like ruin. They bore him back, torn and reeking of wine. Grand Maester Pycelle dosed the king with milk of the poppy. Yet even poppy could not drown such pain. Robert raved at torches, cursed Cersei, begged Ned to look after my boy. The wound festered already, fever climbing. In the corridors servants whispered of the boar, of Cersei's laugh too bright, of wineskin passed from cousin to king in the wood. None spoke of a serving girl vanished after the feast. Mara was no longer in the castle. At moonrise she rented a skiff along the Blackwater Rush, drifting toward the sea. Ravens flew overhead, beating wings like black fans. Whether poison or tusk felled Robert mattered little. A death is a death, a debt is paid. The gift had been granted. She wondered briefly what face she might wear next. A September-born healer in Old Town, a mummer in Liss, a Sellsword's page on the Rhoyne. The world was as wide as the Titan's stride. Yet somewhere, across leagues of winter storm, Arya Stark's heart trembled, remembering a hall of weirwood and stone, a father's kind hand, a half-brother's smile. She pushed the thought aside, letting it drift like petals on river foam. Names were wind, faces were water. Only the many-faced god endured. In King's Landing bells tolled vespers as Eddard Stark knelt beside Robert's deathbed. The king's breaths rattled like swords drawn in snow. Ned pressed chill fingers to the dying man's brow, whispering comfort no ears but theirs would hear. And while Pycelle droned of leeches and Renly paced, restless, Cersei watched with eyes of polished green glass, calculating, unblinking, triumphant. Far below, in Flea Bottom's maze, a candle guttered in a shuttered room. Its flame winked out, leaving only the scent of poison and the soft echo of a door closing forever. The first act was done. The realm would wake to a throne unmoored, lords scrambling like crabs in a pot. And somewhere on the tossing narrow sea, a girl with no name turned her skiff toward the storm's heart. For the god had many faces, and Westeros was ripe with shadows yet to be harvested. Dawn broke, pale and indifferent. Seagulls screamed over the battlements of Dragonstone, over the spires of Storm's End, over Winterfell's distant quiet courts. In Braavos, the kindly man lit a candle before the statue of the stranger, and its tiny glow reflected twice upon his eyes, one black, one white. He marked a ledger in ink that dried the exact hue of old blood, then closed the book on Robert Baratheon's name. Outside the temple, saffron light spilled across the lagoon. Braavos carried on. Boats unloaded spice, children chased gulls, and lords haggled over pearls. Few paused to wonder why a nameless horn wailed from the house of black and white, shivering waterfowl skyward. Fewer still knew the sound heralded a passing, a life taken, a promise kept. For in a world where men built thrones from swords and crowned themselves with conquest, only death could claim a purer kingdom. And death's servants walked always beside the living, cloaked in silence, waiting for the whisper of a coin across wood, the softest sound, yet one that could topple kings and drown empires. So began the slow unraveling of a dynasty, woven by hands unseen, cast upon a loom of ashes. The storm to come would drown banners and birth new legends, but in its eye lingered one truth. When the faceless men accept a name, every breath thereafter counts itself a borrowed thing. The gods of men may quarrel, but the many-faced god collects. Wind whispered along the ramparts of the Red Keep, cool and damp with river mist, as if the city itself drew a shocked breath. In the halls below, thousands of candles guttered before their time, scenting the air with tallow and despair. Courtiers in silk and steel drifted like mourners in a crypt, whispering prayers they scarce remembered for a king most had forgotten how to love. Robert Baratheon lay pale upon velvet, a mountain felled, beard combed, cheeks smoothed by Pycelle's trembling hands. Even in death his lips seemed poised to laugh, though no wine stained them now. Eddard Stark stood sentinel at the foot of the bier. He had borne worse winters, but grief hollowed him more than frost. The parchment in his sleeve felt heavier than ice. Robert's final decree, naming Ned protector of the realm until young Joffrey came of age, warmed his conscience like a hearth flame, yet chilled his blood with foreboding. A child born of incest could not, must not, wear that crown. Still he delayed, seeking the least bloody path, believing steel could be sheathed if truth rode forward on parchment. Across the chamber, Cersei Lannister watched through lashes thick with kohl. She touched her morning gown as though it were mail, every jet bead a link of armor. In her eyes smoldered something older than grief, triumph tempered by calculation. Little fingers circled near, murmuring condolences as though tasting them for sweetness. Varys glided soundless, spider-thin fingers folded like skeins of silk. Renly Baratheon lingered in the threshold, brows knit beneath black curls, weighing a realm too large for even Robert's shoulders. None spared a glance for the serving boy who slipped among candelabra with practiced invisibility. He was small, slight, his brown hair chopped uneven, his eyes downcast. He bore a silver ewer of Myrish wine to refresh the vigil. No one marked how those eyes flicked, bright and gray, from Ned to Cersei to Renly, memorizing alignments of duty and ambition. He poured, bowed, drifted away like steam. In the corridor, he pressed palms to pulse of marble, feeling the castle's heart. Tense, unsteady, strong enough still to break a careless bone. Down spiraling stairs, through moss-smelling tunnels, he ducked into the cellars. Cobwebs trembled as torches breathed. Behind a cask of Dornish sour, he found a stolen moment to breathe his own name, Arya. It tasted of snowmelt and summer grass, a flavor she feared to swallow lest it root too deep. She recited the mantras that had steadied her since Braavos. I see. I do not judge. I serve. Yet tonight a different rhythm answered, wolf heart, beating time against her ribs. The contract lay fulfilled, but the world spun crooked around that emptied throne. Perhaps the many-faced god would glean more offerings before balance stilled. Above, bells tolled second watch. Arya returned to work, handing cups, wiping spills, keeping her head lowered. She watched Cersei slip from the chamber on Jaime's arm. She saw Renly corner Littlefinger beside a pillar, whispering behind cupped hand. She noted Lord Varys vanish. No soft footfalls, simply gone. When dawn ghosted the windows, Arya crept to a loft overlooking the yard where stable boys snapped reins and gold cloaks shuffled. She perched amid dusty rope, listening. Asel's word boasted that Stannis on Dragonstone would never stomach a boy king. A maid said the queen had ordered new banners sewn overnight. A ravener complained the ravens flew heavy with messages north and south, as if wings alone could stitch shut a rent in the realm. Every scrap Arya tangled into her mental net, weighing which strand might tighten first. That afternoon Robert's body journeyed to the September. A river of black and crimson wound through streets bursting with small folk. Ned walked behind the bier with Ser Barristan. 14 knights bore torches though suns still blazed. Cersei rode in a litter curtains, Joffrey beside her stiff with newfound gravity. The boy's eyes darted like midges, pride and terror dueling for his throat. Children threw pale petals. Drunkards hurled curses for ale gone dear. Arya, cloaked like a flea-bottom beggar, slipped through the throng. She let the city's pulse pound against her. King dead, heir crowned, two heartbeats colliding in one vessel. Too quick a beat cracks bone. Inside the great September, Tywin Lannister's absence thundered louder than organ pipes. The old lion campaigned in the Riverlands, men said, reminding Tully lords how a lion's paw felt. Yet Arya recalled whispers that Tywin rode early, before Robert breathed his last, as though summoned by deeper drums. She pictured gold-red banners far away, prowling, ready to strike when city walls trembled. During the vigil, Renly approached Ned amidst the choir's low lament. Their hushed argument filtered through incense. Renly urging swift move, seize prince, secure guards with gold. Ned refusing to steal children in the night, insisting Stannis was rightful heir once Joffrey proved false. Renly's face hardened, youth peeled back to reveal ambition's steel bright. He departed before dawn, taking Ser Loras and 40 rainbow guards. Arya watched him ride south through the Dragon Gate at sunrise, banners furled. She tasted storm on the wind. 3 mornings later, spider silks of rumor blanketed King's Landing. Some claimed Renly fled in fear, others that he sought high garden brides. Small folk cared little, bread price mattered more than bloodlines. What they marked was the gold cloaks doubling on every corner, and the clank of new chain hoists at the Red Keep's main gate. Peter Baelish flew from counting houses to council like a sparrow twitching breadcrumbs, raising loans to buy loyalty measured in steel. Varys disseminated rumors of Dothraki hordes crossing the sea, of plague in Old Town, anything to scatter focus from the keep. Ned dispatched riders for Dragonstone bearing letters sealed with wax direwolf. Maester Vyman had copied Robert's decree a dozen times, each word cut clean. He sent another letter to Captain Ryger at the Mudgate, requesting discreet aid if matters turned grim. Yet before ravens left soot-black towers, Cersei summoned him to the council. A velvet pouch lay upon the table, its mouth drawn tight with golden thread. "My husband's final will," she said, voice calm as snow. "It names you regent. Such a burden sits poorly upon northern shoulders." She tipped the pouch. Parchment slid free. Ser Boros seized it. Cersei's smile curved like a cat's tail. "Shall we read?" But Littlefinger cleared his throat, oily gentle. Perhaps the Hand himself would prefer to recite. After all, he is named therein. Ned felt eyes spear him, Varys, Pycelle, Lord Commander Selmy, even Lancel hovering. Heat flushed his scarred cheek. "I intend to present it to the lords assembled for the coronation, in full sight of the realm." "Commendable," Cersei purred, "yet unnecessary." She plucked the parchment between 2 fingers and, before any could halt her, snapped wax, unfurled it. Silence. Her green eyes drifted line to line. "Ah," she breathed, and a dozen courtiers leaned. She looked up, lashes soft as moth wings. It seems the king spoke of my rightful heir, but failed to name Joffrey explicitly. How strange, Lord Stark. Such an omission might be misinterpreted. Ned's jaw tightened. His Grace trusted me, as he trusted his wife, she said. Fingers flexed. The parchment tore once, twice, shredded like dry bark. She dropped the fragments. Gold thread pooled like blood. Trust is fragile, Lord Stark. Steel hissed as Ser Boros drew blade. Gold cloak surged. Ser Barristan moved too, but slower, honor tangling his feet. Ned's gray eyes swept the faces. No true friends here, save perhaps one. Littlefinger's expression wavered between pity and delight. He stepped close, voice soft. Ride the current, my lord. Swear fealty. The North remains yours. Your daughter's safe. Ned thought of wolves, how they died pulling hunters from cubs. He shook his head. Baelish sighed. Then I truly am sorry. His dagger touched Ned's side before the hand could reach ice. Gold-laced guards closed like jaws. That night Arya waited in her attic pallet above the kitchens. Rats scratched beams, fat from spilt gravy. She had crept to the council chamber after word floated that gold cloaks marched. She tasted betrayal in the air, copper bitter. Now confusion reigned. The queen's men hunted Sansa. Rumors said. The hound stalked corridors, visor down. Arya's heart hammered northwards, yearning for Winterfell's Wolfstone. But the many-faced gods scoffed at yearning. Fate had swallowed her father in the castle's belly. She must not be devoured too. She smuggled herself through servant passages, skirts smudged with soot. In the armory she found a small practice blade, dull yet serviceable. She kissed its wooden grip, remembering Sirio's voice, smooth as arrow flight. What do we say to death? Not today. Yet death walked the halls and sometimes wore no face at all. She prowled toward the Tower of the Hand. Lannister guards thronged the front, but Arya climbed a forgotten buttress, scaled ivy, slipped through a window into Ned's solar. Shadows cloaked overturned chairs. Parchment littered the carpet. Ice's scabbard leaned empty against hearthstone. She searched desk drawers, found a map of the Trident, sealed letters to Stannis. A scrap bearing just 2 words, the Seed. She pocketed it without knowing why. Bootsteps clanged. She darted behind a curtain. Littlefinger strode in, torch raised, a Tyrell guard at his heel. Peter shuffled papers with brisk precision, then rifled a false bottom. He withdrew a small ebony box. Lock clicked. Inside, Arya glimpsed bristle of quills, a bundle of white weirwood tree seeds wrapped in cloth, crest of Stark stitched. Littlefinger palmed them, smile flickering. Even roots have price, he murmured. Torchlight gleamed off his mocking eyes. He departed. Arya forced herself not to pursue. Outside, bells rang bronze across darkness, summons to court. In the throne room, Harry's SWYFT proclaimed Robert's death and crowned Joffrey Baratheon. The boy's voice cracked as he vowed justice. Cersei stood behind, a hand on his shoulder. Ned, kneeling, bruises darkening his face, read forced confession that he had plotted usurpation with Stannis. Sansa sobbed beside the queen. Arya could not see her father's eyes across the packed hall, but she felt his spirit trembling like a bowstring. When the sword point pricked Ned's collar, Arya turned away, teeth sunk in her lip. In the courtyard she heard the roar, first of outrage, then of horror, as Joffrey ordered death. Arya moved before thought. She fled the keep's postern down to the stables, slipping between panicked grooms. Torch flare painted the yard hell red. City gates would soon lock. She needed coins, identity, plan, but grief clawed, feral inside. She tasted iron, realized she had bitten through her own skin. In a corner, a stable boy hamstrung by fear cowered. His cloak hung on a peg. Arya yanked it, draped herself, forced shoulders square. Cat of the Canals had walked worse nights. She exited through a side wicket, gold cloak sweeping past unaware. In her pocket lay those seeds, small, pale, stubborn. She clenched them with numb fingers. Even roots have price. but some seeds grew into trees that outlived kings. She trekked to the river gate, blending with bakers hauling flour. Beyond the walls, the black water glittered under half-moon. She found a barge master accepting 2 copper for passage upriver to the brothers. She paid with a Bravosi coin bearing a hooded face. The man peered but did not question. She boarded, crouched among bales smelling of hops. As current tugged them north, Arya's tears finally fell, silent, hot, as city lights receded like dying embers. Across the sea, in Bravos, a priest of the many-faced god stilled his quill midglyph. Ink bled into parchment. He felt a tremor of imbalance. One death had seeded many. Names bloomed within shadows yet unspoken. Joffrey, Cersei, Tywin, maybe more. Deaths seldom ended with a single coin. He rose, summoned a pale novice with eyes like frozen rain. Fetch the waif. Tell her a new song must be learned. A song of lions roaring too loudly. Back in King's Landing, chaos germinated. Gold cloaks scoured alleys for traitors. Varys wept for order while smuggling gendry from the dungeons. Littlefinger tightened his purse strings about the city watch captain's throat. Sansa, pale as winter roses, endured Cersei's smiles sharper than blades. But the court's gaze fixed northward, where ravens flew carrying one name, Robb Stark. At Winterfell's great hall, Robb stood before banners of direwolf and moon. Maester Luwin read the letter thrice. Robb heard only the last lines. His grace orders you south as ward to ensure your father's loyalty. And Ned's signature, blotted, forged, no doubt coerced. Catelyn clenched the parchment like a trap sprung on her hand. The hall's torches hissed like serpents. Grey wind howled, echo echoed by men in mail. Robb's voice broke as he pledged riders to break his father free. The north answered with spears. In the Eyrie, little Lord Aaron chased falcons along sky cells. Lisa trembled, reading Ned's confession. She grasped at specters of prior paranoia, seeing lions in shadow. She closed the gates of the moon, but whispers seeped through cracks. On Dragonstone, black waves battered basalt cliffs. Stannis Baratheon paced his strategy table, jaw clenched. The letter from Ned burned in his palm, pointing to bastardy born of twin golden heads. Melisandre watched him, eyes glowing like embers in night fire. She murmured that light revealed truth. Steel would do the rest. Stannis ordered ravens to every lord beneath the sun of justice, naming himself rightful king. Thus the realm split like rotted fruit. Yet in the deep cells of the Red Keep, a girl named Sansa stared at a patch of dusk on stone, wondering if wolves could reach through stone to save one single lamb. And in a frozen loft of an inn on the King's Road, Arya dreamed of faces. Her mother's worry, Bran's wonder, Ned's calm sorrow, and woke clutching a wooden sword to her breast as though it might strike the order of the world back into place. Night by night, camps formed, armies marched. Tywin Lannister seized Harrenhal, smoke curling from its blackened towers. Edmure Tully called banners along the Red Fork. Renly crowned himself beneath Highgarden's golden roses, knights swearing oaths sweet as mead. Stannis raised the fiery stag on Dragonstone, sigils reflected in the dark glass table like candles in crypt water. The Iron Islands stirred, smelling blood. Yet one figure walked paths unseen by any army. Arya moved in disguise from inn to ferry to drover's cart. She swapped cloaks, names, tones of voice until even she forgot the cadence of her childhood speech. Still the seeds rode in her pouch. At night she touched them, feeling their promise. A forest yet unborn. She remembered her father kneeling by a godswood heart tree, lips murmuring prayers no Southron priests heard. Justice, he had whispered, like wind through leaves. Along the banks of the Trident she encountered a troop of mummers, Tom Seven Strings strumming bawdy songs, Lem drumming tankard. They took her for boy, dubbed her squab, let her haul props to earn stew. Around their fires she learned to tumble, to mimic accents, to laugh when sorrow bled. One dusk a gold cloak patrol thundered past. She hid beneath a wagon, breath shallow. She saw the crimson lion sewn on Sergeant's cloak, remembered Micah's broken body, and hatred coiled anew. Beyond the mummers' camp lurked a ruined September moonlight-painted cracked marble saints. Arya knelt before a shattered maiden statue. She planted one stark seed in the soil among rubble. Fingers pressed earth. She whispered, "Grow." The wind sighed through broken glass like ghosts. Perhaps gods of old stones would heed or not. She rose lighter, though tears salted her lashes. She left the troop at the crossroads inn, stolen pony carrying her north along twisting tracks between fields of speared wheat. Smoke stained sunrise where battles had burned the night. Villages emptied to avoid foraging armies. Crows perched fat on fence posts. Every milestone told of realm dying by inches. Near Acorn Hall she encountered deserters in brown cloaks. They joked of kings like dice. Renly the Peach, Stannis the Iron, Robb the Pup, Joffrey the Bastard Joker. They saw only a tousled boy and closed in. Arya lured them beneath oaks, feigned fear, then struck like viper. Wooden blade cracked knee, real dagger followed, swift beneath rib. 3 men bled their last into moss while dead leaves spiraled. Arya searched pockets, found a rough map of Riverland's supply caches drawn by some quartermaster of Lannister's host. She burned it, watching fire dance in corpse-dark eyes, and told herself each breath taken from men who would have raped a child was another coin for the god. Still the road unfurled. She crossed paths with a fat septon on a mule, chanting litanies. Bandits spared him, perhaps fearing his loudly touted curses. He offered Arya dried apples. She thanked him with a smile that did not reach her eyes. He preached that 7 new kings sprouted like weeds, yet only one crown fit the crumbling realm, music of mercy. Arya thought of bravos of many faces and wondered which tune the stranger preferred. Autumn deepened. In a clearing beyond the twins, Arya watched Robb's host muster, steel glittering like river water. She dared not approach. Too many eyes. She listened to drummers' pulse cadence of war. At dusk, gray winds howl carried across fields. It dragged something inside her chest, a string stretching back to childhood. She kept to hedge shadows, weeping soundlessly. When campfires dotted horizon, she drew seed from pouch and buried it beneath a stone near the King's Road, marking spot with a twist of straw. One day, she swore, a wolf would rest beneath that tree's shade. While Arya stitched her path northwards, in King's Landing Sansa bent knee each morning before Queen Regent, reciting prayers for Joffrey's grace. The boy king's cruelty grew in petty increments, first demanding better bows at archery, next ordering a baker flogged for stale crust, then setting hounds on a singer who dared compare his voice to Rhaegar's harp. At night Sansa whispered to her pillow for her sister, for a brother to ride rescue.
Ser dontos drank mater dridels, hinting sabyers wore velvet gloves.
In the Red Keep's black cells, Ned Stark's name lingered like smoke. Headsmen boasted of clean axes, septons prayed redemption, but no ground swallowed the memory of a wolf lord kneeling beneath a lion's order. Sansa sometimes heard city folk debating whether Traitor truly died. Some claimed his skull was too long, others that a black bird carried it away. Myths breed from pain. Yet one truth rang steady. The kingdom bled. In Bravos, the waif found Arya's path in a pool of still water, reading ripples like script. She donned a sailor's face, booked berth for Westeros. Behind her, a priest extinguished candles. The faceless men doled debts carefully. If one name given birthed 1,000 new ones, they must prune the branch before it strangled the trunk. Winter's first frost etched grasses silver when Arya crossed into the Riverlands proper. Smoke pillars rose where Lannister outriders torched holdings. Outside a burnt mill she found 2 small children crouched amid ashes, clutching each other. Their mother and father lay curled black by fire. Arya whispered gentle, coaxed them to drink from a stream. She left them in care of a Septon caravan bound for Fairmarket. But anger flared, molten under her ribs. She etched a name on the unspoken list she wrote nightly with her breath. Cersei, Joffrey, Meryn Trant, Alan Payne, Gregor Clegane. The list grew. The many-faced god claimed all, but some he claimed through Arya's small knife. At Harrenhal, Tywin Lannister received tidings of Stark victories in Whispering Wood. He snarled, cracked walnuts as though they were necks. Messengers rode with orders to Shagga son of Dolph and other green men of the Vale conscripted under false promises. In dungeons below, a shadow thing in rags whispered 3 lives for 3, naming himself Jaqen Hagar. His red and white hair coiled like a flame's twin tongues. When Arya eventually crossed those black stones, she would find a mirror of her own training, a man who killed with the softest smile. But for now she skirted Harrenhal's cursed silhouette, feeling doom there like a storm cloud. She aimed for Riverrun, dreaming of her mother's arms. River crossings teemed with refugees. Tolls soared. She sold the pony to pay ferrymen, walked barefoot along mud banks. One dusk she glimpsed 2 riders garbed in fawn cloaks, scouts of Robb's outriders. She hid, fearing discovery might draw pursuit. Yet voice inside asked why she still fled kin. Because to be Arya was to invite capture. To be no one kept her alive. Still, the seeds. She carried Winterfell in those seeds. She reached a ruined sept 12 leagues shy of Riverrun where wounded clustered. Crows eyed them. Arya tended a blacksmith's torn arm, recalling basic salves learned in Bravos. She mended a child's rag doll with rough thread. Under Lichyard yews she planted her final seed. Tiersvet soil. She promised to return when rivers ran clean. That night thunder cracked. Rain pummeled slate. A red shadow flickered among limping figures. Melisandre preaching Lord of Light's deliverance to half-deaf men. She claimed Stannis' victory ordained. Arya watched from hayloft eaves as men half-mad with fever bent before her torch. Fire illuminated the night's wet teeth. The red woman's eyes seemed to find Arya, linger, then slide away. Perhaps seeing nothing, perhaps seeing too much. Dawn broke with banners on the horizon. Tully Trout and stark Direwolf. Arya trembled as horns blew. Riders poured across field like ink spilled. She clutched practice blade. She could reveal herself now, run to Robb's side. But gold cloaks still hunted, and faceless men did not allow debts unpaid. Another contract could come. The waif might already stalk her tracks. She backed into forest. Behind the host rolled carts bearing wounded from earlier skirmish. Arya noted one driver slump, blood on his collar. She approached, offered to guide oxen. The sergeant nodded, bleeding from scalp. Thus Arya entered Robb Stark's camp under guise of Carter's boy, her heart a sparrow's drum in her throat. Within the command tent Robb debated with Great John Umber, Roose Bolton, and Tytos Blackwood. Arya recognized voices through canvas. Robb's pitched, anxious but firm. Great John booming. Bolton cold as a hook in ice. They planned assault on Jaime's rear guard. If victory held, they would trap Lannister host between Fork and River. Arya's chest swelled. Her brother grown taller, voice deeper. She longed to rush in. Then Bolton spoke of hostages and leverage, reminding them Sansa remained captive. The word hostage sliced as sharp as needle. Arya turned away. She would not burden Robb with her presence now. Night again. Campfires flicker starwise. Arya crouched by riverbed washing grime from hands. Water swirled, reflecting moons. Footsteps. She spun, dagger up. A girl faced her. Slender, pale, with eyes blank as frost. "Sister," the waif said in Bravosi. "You run from shadows your own. The house is displeased." Arya's stomach lurched. She saw no weapon but knew death could ride on bare hands. "I served," Arya answered. "The name was taken, and yet lions roar. Blood spills beyond the tithe." The waif cocked head. "Come. Return. Balance must be restored. Another name has been given." Arya's fingers closed on dagger. "Whose?" The waif smiled with lips color of snow. "Joffrey Baratheon." Cold flooded Arya's limbs, mingling terror and fierce, wild joy. "Let me finish it. That choice is not yours." The waif stepped forward. "Come to Bravos." "Not yet." Arya backed against Willow Trunk. "I have debts too. Wolves' debts." The waif sighed. "Names always. Let them go. Be no one." Arya's knuckles whitened. "I am no one," she whispered. "But I remember." Wind rustled reeds. In that heartbeat, Arya slashed water, sending spray toward the waif's eyes. She bolted, feet splashing. Trees swallowed her. Behind, the waif's calm voice drifted. "You cannot hide from faces. Moon Guid." At Arya through tangled brush. She ran until lungs burned. She reached edge of camp where supply wagons stood. A cloaked sentry hailed her. She answered in shaky Riverland's drawl. He waved her past. She crawled beneath a tarp, heart-hammering avalanche. In darkness she weighed futures. Surrender to house, kill Joffrey under its sanction, or keep running until every face was stranger even to her. She clutched Ned's scrap, the seed. Seemed absurd now. Seeds could not win wars. Yet maybe they could outlive them. She slept fitfully. Dawn horns roused camp. Robb's host marched east. Arya stole pony anew, riding ahead, disguised as outrider's squire. She meant to slip into King's Landing under swirl of war. If House wanted a king slain, she would oblige. But she would do it for her father too, and for Micah, and for every child burned from mill to sept. Storm clouds gathered over the King's Road, thick purple as bruises. Arya urged pony faster, list of names echoing hoofbeats. Behind her the waif stalked unseen, patient. Ahead a boy king sat a stolen throne, crowning himself with cruelty, never imagining a wolf with 1,000 faces loped through rain to claim a debt both holy and very, very personal. And north of them all, where cold never forgot, snow began to fall on bare branches of a heart tree grown from seed no one remembered planting. The Game of Thrones had entered a new passage, notes struck by unseen hands, each chord reverberating through valleys and keeps alike. Somewhere, the many-faced god listened, counting heartbeats like coins dropped in an endless well. Moonless dark smothered the King's Road as Arya urged the piebald pony onward, hooves thudding like a muffled drum. Storm clouds had broken hours earlier, drenching fields and flooding cart ruts. Now rain clung in beads to every hedge, and the air tasted of iron. Thunder still prowled far off, rumbling like some sluggish giant that could not decide whether to wake. Each roll echoed her pulse. With every mile south, the pony's ears twitched, weary, the poor beast bone-tired from days of stolen gallop, but Arya could spare no halt. Dawn might bring outriders from Robb's column sweeping the road, and behind her the waif felt as inevitable as the shifting phases of the moon. She clung to saddlecloth, cloak plastered to skin, wooden practice blade lashed across thigh, Braavosi dagger hidden in boot. Ahead, King's Landing drew her like a lodestone of spite and destiny, a lair of lions and the keystone of vengeance. She crossed the Blackwater by the stone bridge at midnight, bribing a lone watchman with a silver stag minted under King Ares, a coin so old its edges were soft as candle wax. He never raised a lantern to her face, only weighed the silver against his hunger. Smell of rot and river scum rose beneath the arch, mingling with distant night soil smoke drifting from the city. The Red Keep's silhouette loomed against black sky, a hulking claw. Arya dismounted in the shadow of willow copses and tied the pony to a root, whispering thanks before she slipped into reeds, sandals silent over mud. Lamps flickered along the mud gate, but fewer than before. Half the city watch had marched east with Tyrion Lannister to harry Robb. Those remaining lounged, bored, gambling for copper wings. Arya spent an hour memorizing guard changes, the sway of their drunken gait, the rhythm of the portcullis chain grinding when the tide brought supply scows through. Then she waded to a storm drain outlet where rivulets of sewage gushed, sucking at ankles, and crawled inside. The drain stank. Shit, awful, dead rats bloated like gray balloons, and water reached her knees, icy. She splashed through blackness, one hand on slime-slick wall, counting alcoves by touch until her fingertips brushed iron bars crusted with salt. Above, faint light seeping from a grating painted lattice shadows. She heaved. The grate refused, bolted, no matter. 20 paces beyond lay another grating with 2 bolts rattling loose. She worried them with knife tip until they clinked into water, then levered the grate aside. Wind hissed through the hole like breath from a grave. She hauled herself into a brick culvert, belly sliding on moss, and found a stair spiraling upward, Forgotten Servant's Passage. She had traced its route years ago on a ragged blueprint stolen from Pycelle's library back when she had been Myrtle the Cupbearer. Cobwebs ruptured across her cheeks. Rats fled. Upward. Torch niches stood empty, but she needed none. Memory guided her. At the stairs' top, a wooden hatch opened on rusty hinges into a dusty wardrobe bulging with decaying linens. She crept out, listening. Silence but for faint clink of silver below. Kitchens said supper hour ended. She rummaged and found a moth-eaten gray doublet, breeches, and a cap with drooping tassel, livery of scullions. She stripped her soaked garments, donned the livery, tucked dagger into sleeve. Then she smeared soot on cheeks, scuffed boots across hearth ashes, and became a dirty kitchen turnspit named Airy once more. She slipped down wide stairs past niches of lion-fanged gargoyles. No sentries minded a scrawny boy lugging a wine jug. In the scullery, wine fumes mixed with onions. Matrons shrieked at tardy pages. Dogs licked bones beneath trestles. Arya drifted, head bowed, but eyes devoured everything. Number of cooks, the route Big Belly Ser Marin took to sample stews, the layout of pot racks that could mask quick movement. She filled a ewer at the cask, feigned being tasked for the queen, and walked calmly into the maze of corridors leading to Maegor's Holdfast. A pair of gold cloaks at the Holdfast door barred her. She stammered about a late supper tray for Ser Boros. One guard cuffed her ear but waved her through, too lazy to fetch credentials. Inside, red velvet carpets muffled steps. She followed side passages and dumbwaiter shafts until she stood before the small antechamber to the royal nursery. A maid hummed inside, rocking Tommen, while Myrcella slept curled beside a lamp. No screams tonight. Good. Arya retreated. Children were not her prey. The throne room lay empty save torch sconces guttering in draught. The Iron Throne's black spines reached like talons against gloom. Arya crept to its dais, tilted back her cap, staring. Joffrey sat here, sneering, ordering her father's death. A tremor seized her. She pictured herself springing onto the steps, dagger darting, but emptiness mocked her. Killing a boy king in full court required more than courage. It required theater, misdirection, timing. She turned away, breath shaky, and resumed mapping corridors, searching vantage points. The gallery over the throne room where minstrels played. The hidden door behind a wall hanging depicting Aegon's conquest. A ventilation shaft above the hands solar reachable by chimney stack. She slept the remaining hours in a disused laundry, curled amid sheets stiff with starch. Morning bells clanged. She joined scullions hauling breakfast to the small hall where Joffrey broke fast with his mother and the High Septon. Haze from peppered eggs curled in air. Arya poured watered wine into the king's cup, head bowed so hair shadowed her face. Joffrey scarcely noticed. He berated a steward for wrinkled napkins. Cersei's gaze brushed Arya but slid away. The queen's eyes were rimmed with sleepless red. Even victory exacted toll. Arya pulled back, pulse roaring. At any moment a shiver of recognition might turn those emerald eyes lethal. But there were too many new servants. Faces changed daily as plague of war starved half the city. She delivered ewer to pantry and fled into tunnels. By midday word spread of a progress. Joffrey would tour the city's western walls to inspect new scorpions forging under Qyburn's direction. He would travel with 2 Kingsguard, 3 captains, and a dozen gold cloaks, leaving the Red Keep at sunset so the boy could watch torches blaze along battlements. Arya listened from alcove, heart thudding. A movement outdoors offered vantage, chaos, fewer eyes. Yet assassination on ramparts might plunge city into riot before she could slip away. Good, perhaps. But she recalled Waif's caution. The kill must suit the gods' balance. Better a stroke that echoed her father's downfall, poetic redressing. She spent afternoon observing the procession route, from Keep across Drawbridge, through King's Gate, up Visegnaz Hill, along Outer Parapet to Dragon Gate. She watched masons patching crenellations, measured arrow slit spacing. She found a spot beneath a rampart overlook where mortar crumbled, opening a fissure barely wide enough for a thin body. Inside, A niche once used for signal flags overlooked the street below and the wall walk above. Someone wielding a short catspaw could spring from the niche, strike at a throat, then drop to the alley's roof and vanish into warrens, if guards were distracted. Distraction would be easy. Hungry crowds seethed beyond the gates. Joffrey's presence might spark jeers, stone-throwing. She smiled grimly. Small folk would play their part unknowingly, but she lacked one thing: poison. Knife was sure, but messy, and Joffrey's Kingsguard wore white mail neckpieces. A blade must find gap just under ear. What of Widow's wail? She dared not return to the tannery, but kitchens held sleep drafts, honey wine spiced with poppy. She needed something swift and silent. Then memory stirred. Qyburn's workrooms under Guildhall stored powders. She had glimpsed his apprentice carrying black vials labeled Tears of Lys, basilisk venom. Lys poison killed without pain, eyes wide, heart slowed in minutes. A single drop in wine might suffice, but she could not control Joffrey's cup on a wall walk. No, blade remained truest. She visited smithy yards and filched a slim leatherworker's awl. Steel point honed for piercing hide. 6 inches long, handle small enough to conceal in sleeve. She tested weight, imagined gristle yielding. Satisfied, she wrapped hilt in cloth to muffle clink. Dusk limped over rooftops. Joffrey's procession clattered from the gate to horns and desultory cheers. Arya already crouched in niche, knees tucked to chest, one eye pressed to crack, seeing torchlit helms pass beneath. First came trumpeters, then gold cloaks pushing onlookers back with spear butts. The smell of tallow and horse sweat rose in swelter. Some small folk booed, though thinly. Many feared spear hafts. Joffrey rode a palfrey caparisoned in crimson. White cloak rippled behind Ser Meryn, Ser Boros. Arya's mouth dried. When the king's golden crown glimmered under torch, she eased all into hand. The moment must be when he dismounted to inspect scorpion winches. They said the boy loved cranks and gears. Already she saw masters demonstrating clamps to him at next parapet turn. She braced feet against stone, ready to spring. A baby wailed in the crowd, shrill. Arya's pulse split like lightning. Joffrey looked down, sneering, and flicked hand. A gold cloak shoved woman with infant hard. She stumbled, fell against wheelwright cart. The cart upset, spilling cabbages that rolled under hooves. A horse reared, shrieking. Chaos erupted. Shouts spilled like boiling milk. Joffrey laughed, pointing. Arya felt fury surge, her muscles coiled. She tensed to leap. "Not yet," hissed a voice behind her. Steel kissed her throat. The waif's breath brushed her ear. Many-faced god waits. Arya's mind flashed to childhood duels with Jon, blade on blade. She twisted at once, elbow driving backwards. The waif flowed aside, steel glinting. Arya's all jabbed up. The waif parried with dagger's hilt, sparks skittering where metal met stone. Cries below masked clash. Waif slashed aimed at Arya's forearm. Cloth parted, skin stung. Blood warm. Arya pivoted, kicked. Waif staggered half-step, surprised by ferocity. Below, scuffle widened. Rocks sailed. One struck Joffrey's helm. He shrieked, face flushing, commanded archers. Ser Meryn roared order. Gold cloaks readied crossbows. Crowd screamed, swirling. The waif lunged again, whisper swift. Arya ducked, all flicked up, scoring cheek. Crimson bead welled. The waif's eyes widened, more insult than pain. "You break the code," she breathed. "I am the code," Arya snapped. Noise exploded. A crossbow twang. A woman's shriek cut off, then roar of hundreds. Guards pushed King back toward keep. Perfect vantage lost. The waif thrust. Arya deflected, felt blade kiss ribs but twist away on leather. She slammed shoulder. Both spilled onto narrow lip of wall. Below, 20 feet cobbles glistened. A torch sputtered out, ash curling upward. Waif struck Arya's wrist. All clattered off parapet, spinning into dark. Arya snarled, jabbed thumb into Waif's eye.
Vingernail scraped lid. Wave hissed, shockfracturing poise.
They grappled precarious edge. Rain-slick boots slipped. Waif clutched Arya's collar to steady. Arya seized that wrist, leveraged momentum, and fell backward deliberately, inside wall. Waif pitched over parapet, fingers scrabbling stone. Too late. She vanished soundlessly into riot. Arya lay gasping. Thunder rolled again, as if applauding. She crawled to ledge, peered. The waif's body sprawled atop shattered cart, cabbages scattered like smashed skulls.
No motion.
Small folk parted wide. In torchlight, her neck bent unnatural. The king's guard would think her some pickpocket trampled. Debt paid, Arya exhaled, then inhaled terror. She had slain a faceless sister. Sanctuary in Braavos forever lost. Only path lay forward. She retrieved fallen brass lantern, smashed it to spill oil across fissure, then slipped along wall walk toward gatehouse stairs. Soldiers focused on quelling mob. She descended, melting into throng of rubble throwers whose fury now burned hotter. She screamed with them for bread. In cacophony, she vanished into Shit Street's maze. Cap gone, blood mixing with grime. Back in the red, keep that night Cersei paced solar like lioness in cage, eyes blazing. Joffrey raged too, vow blood for Stone's throne. Reports claimed half a dozen peasants slain by crossbow bolts. High Septon shrilled condemnation. Varys counseled leniency. Littlefinger whispered about food shipments earning loyalty. Qyburn advised hanging rioters as example. In shadow, Cerberus mentioned a dead girl found against wall wearing odd garb. No one cared. Threat lay in fury of city. Cersei ordered more men patrolling, more heads spiked. Arya nursed gash beneath a straw roof of ale-yard shack in Flea Bottom. She bound it with linen torn from stolen chemise. Fever licked edges but had no time to bloom. She pondered next attempt. Direct strike foiled, yet tension escalated. Another riot could provide cover. Or the purple wedding approaching. Word reached taverns that Joffrey would wed Marjorie Tyrell come spring. Poisoned wine at feast? Tears of Lys in wedding chalice? But months away, Sansa still prisoner, war shifting. She yearned to snatch sister now. She needed allies. At dawn, she sought the black-bearded Smith Tobo Mott who once forged needle. His yard hummed with Tyrell orders. She hovered until apprentices scattered. I came for a blade, she told him, voice pitched tremulous as stable boy. He eyed her strange, then recognition flickered. Arya, she nodded. Fear crossed his face. Harboring traitor's girl risked death. Yet he owed her father for commission debts. He brought her to back forge, produced slender sword blank awaiting quench. Not finished, but strong enough. She wrapped hilt, thanked him in stark name. He refused coin. Leave before they see you. Blade felt alive, whispering homecoming. She christened it Ghost in her mind. 2 streets over she spied group of men in mottled cloaks. Brotherhood without banners, preaching justice for small folk, recruiting beneath tavern awning. Thuras of Myr's red robes gleamed. Arya's heart heaved. They once saved Gendry. She listened as Jack Be Lucky told tale of Ned Stark's honor, how Lannisters butchered Riverlands. The crowd cheered vengeance. Brotherhood planned to seize grain barges and feed hungry. A plan formed. Stoke fury, topple Boy King under weight of his own city. Assassination by mob rather than dagger. She followed them to hideout under the ruined September of the sorrowful mother. There, among wine casks and stolen blankets, she revealed identity to Thuras. Shock, then grief. Your father was good man. His fire still burns. She spun tale of Joffrey's cruelty, the Kingsguard's murders. I mean to end him, she said. Thuras fingered his burned amulet. Our blades are pledged to the realm, not vendetta. But Angui the archer grinned. Realm would cheer the brat's head on spike. They debated deep into night. Finally, Yellow Dick proposed plan. Lure King to tourney staged as charity for orphans. Put arrow through heart. Too risky, said Thuras. Angui winked at Arya. Arrows are quiet. Plans postponed by war news. Stannis had sailed, beaten at Blackwater by wildfire. Word of victory emboldened Joffrey. City celebrated, but food still scarce. Bronn minted higher levies. taxes bit into bones. Queen Marjorie arrived with Tyrell entourage, spreading alms to poor, earning hearts. Joffrey preened. Poison at feast regained allure. Arya needed potion. She sought Qyburn's apothecary using passages under Guildhall. Masked by night, she slipped through grate into dim vault of pickled organs. Jars glowed sickly green. On shelf she found small vial etched with teardrop. Lys poison blue-black. She corked it, left 2 gold honors. A gift to many-faced god from Lion's Hoard, balance for theft. Snow fell lightly during Feast of Victory. Great hall dripped with garlands, new chandeliers casting jewels of light on Tyrell roses. Arya disguised as wine-serving boy in Tyrell livery stolen from laundry. Throngs packed benches. Musicians played. Joffrey gloated at Tyrion's black eyes. King's new warburn cloak trailing. At third course she carried flagon of arbor gold to dais, swapped stopper for her vial, tipped 3 drops into Joffrey's cup. Just enough. But when she reached table, servant replaced King's chalice with ornate glass gifted by Marjorie, filled already. Moment lost. She could not pour again without suspicion. She pivoted to fill goblet of Ser Marin, then withdrew. She roamed hall seeking second opportunity, but soon the king decided to retire early. Rumor said his stomach ached since midday sweets. He left under guard. Cersei followed. Hall emptied. Poisoned wine remained in flagon near dais untouched. She grit teeth in frustration. Next morning rumors fluttered of king's indigestion. Maester Pycelle prescribed milk of the poppy. Joffrey snapped at pages for dull swords during practice. Not enough. Winter closed fist on city. Snow heavier. Bakeries empty. Small folk rioted again when gold cloaks seized grain wagons for castle. Brotherhood provoked skirmishes, releasing wagons to poor. In retaliation, Cersei ordered heads dipped in tar displayed above gates. 3 orphans claimed ringleaders. Rage spiked. Arya smelled powder keg. To spark explosion, she slipped leaflets through Cobbler District at dawn. Bold, crude drawings of gaunt children beneath crown of swords with words King of Carrion. She used pigment from mummers, wrote talk of secret granaries beneath Maegor's holdfast. By night mobs marched with torches, chanting bread or blood. Gold cloaks formed shield walls. 1 arrow loosed from parapet slew a woman. Mobs surged, battering gates with stolen rams. Cersei panicked, ordered release of wildfire barrels onto rioters. Rumor only, but fear rippled. Arya slipped through confusion up tower stairs to Joffrey's solar, knowing queen and guards were at gates. She found the king pacing, complaining to weak-chinned Lancel. "Fetch me my crossbow. I'll hunt these dogs." Lancel hurried away, leaving door ajar. Arya padded in S. Word ghost drawn, point glittering. Joffrey whirled, face blanching. "Who?" She leapt, blade flashing for throat. But Lancel returned quicker than expected, crossbow in hand. He shouted. Arya aborted stroke, rolled beneath shaft clacking off wall. Joffrey screamed high, darting behind chair. Arya kicked desk at Lancel, tangling his feet, then slashed down. Ghost cleaved bowstring, nicked flesh. Lancel yelped, stumbled bleeding. Arya vaulted table toward the king, but he thrust a heavy candlestick. Caught her temple firework of pain. She staggered. He fled screaming into corridor. Boots thundered, Ser Boros charging with halberd. Arya dove aside, ghost deflecting point yet jarring arm numb. She retreated through solar window onto balcony overlooking courtyard. Snow whipped, lanterns flickered. 10 yards below lay frozen garden. Boros advanced, behind more steps. Arya decided, wrapped cloak around fists, smashed balcony window, then vaulted rail. Falling, tumbling, cloak billowing to slow descent. She hit snow-laden hedge, rolled, bruised but alive. Cry above, assassin! She limped into arbor shadows, scaling trellis to wall walk, then down to stable roof. Crossbow bolts hissed overhead. She ducked, vaulted to hay wagon outside, and vanished into storm. 3 days she hid in Rat's Nest tavern cellar while fever from temple gash burned. News trickled. Assassin believed Braavosi Sells word. Joffrey shaken but unhurt, Queen furious.
Goldklok zercht Everdeen.
Thuras smuggled bread to her, begged she flee with Brotherhood convoy soon departing through secret postern tunnel. Yet Arya refused. Gods would not release her until lion cub silenced. She waited until swelling eased, then started anew. Winter nights lengthened, cull of poor sword. In deep gloom of post-curfew hour, she infiltrated Maegor's undercroft again using same drain. For no dog expects rat return twice. Red Keep skeleton crew now patrolled cellars while upper floors bristled. She navigated catacombs until she reached hall outside royal bedchambers. Cersei had moved Joffrey into Julius Tower for safety. Halls lined with tapestry of Harrenhal burning. Midnight bells told loneliness. She hid behind coffer as Pycelle tottered past, dropping Kieran from shaking old hands. She retrieved keys, followed him at distance to nursery chamber where he dosed Joffrey's wine with mild sleeping draught. She marked key, then doubled back, intercepting the cupbearer en route to King. In corridor she tripped the boy, sending tray clanging. She knelt to help, slipped vial of list poison from sleeve into cup, swirling quick. Boy thanked her, hurried on none the wiser. Heart hammered until footsteps faded. She retreated to gallery above throne room, curled in darkness, waiting. Dawn's first pink finger stroked crenellations when the scream ripped palace calm. Started as choking howl, snapping to wet gargle. Arya knew before word carried, poison blossoming. Bells rang, maesters scurried, gold cloaks thundered. Soon rumors soared across rooftops like gulls. The king dead in his bed, lips pale, eyes glass. Some claimed he suffocated on pigeon pie, others blame witchcraft. Cersei shrieked vengeance. Pycelle insisted heart failure, tears leaking. But within hour, High Septon pronounced death the stranger's will. Arya left palace sewers before noon clamor. Snow fell thick now, muffling city. She trudged to docks where Brotherhood cog awaited tide. Thuras blinked at news. "The wolf howls," he murmured. She boarded stern without word. As sails filled, bells still told black. In Red Keep, Cersei collapsed upon corpse, madness seedlings. Tyrion-eyed Chalice, sniffing faint bitterness. Poppy? No, something subtler. He pocketed cup. Sansa wept not for king but for world shifting again. Varys paced, seeing war for throne newly kindled. Away at Riverrun, Robb heard Raven and wondered if gods answered dire prayers. On Dragonstone, Stannis clenched ash-streaked crown, muttering that leech blood wrought effect. Near Highgarden, Olenna Tyrell snorted, lips pursed, calculating new bridegroom for granddaughter. The cogs slipped onto narrow sea. Arya leaned against rail, cold air slicing lungs clean. Snow dissolved on brine. She removed pouch of seeds, 2 remaining. She cast one into sea for her father, one for her mother somewhere across rivers of strife. Only emptiness remained inside pouch. Debts paid, though ledger of vengeance still held names. But sun-crowned horizon ahead, gold path broken upon waves, promising far shores. Behind, Bravos awaited reckoning. She had slain a sister. Ahead, war roared, but she felt no fear. She was no one and everyone, wolf, cat, mercy. Wind filled sail. The world reeled, kingdoms tottered, and the many-faced god, ever impartial, counted another monarch among his masks, satisfied for now. Yet beneath bright quilt of dawn, a girl stood alone, blade at belt, eyes gray as winter sky, and whispered to ghosts carried on the wind, "Vala Morgulus." Then, with voice steady as steel, she answered herself, "Vala Dohaeris."